Bluetooth. Good morning, guys. Welcome, all of you. So, we are going to start with introduction. So, Anish will start with the introduction.
Hi guys,
Right.
how's your day going? Fine, right? The season, the climate is pretty good for sleep, right? I can say some of you guys will sleep. Even I too get to sleep. So welcome. So this is Cypher Technologies. So the person who spoke before was Android senior. He's an Android senior developer. So thanks for the intro, Bala. So today our session is going to be based on AI and cyber security. So last time who all came to this event previously? 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah. So for you guys, you might have known last time we covered quality software testing and AI. I was handling the software testing and this speaker who came from outside, he took the classes based on AI. So this time our internal speaker, we have an internal speaker. He will be taking us through the AI process, and we have another speaker especially meant for cyber security. So before we deeply dive into this, can you have a quick intro section? So can you guys one by one can you tell about yourself and where you're coming from and what's the purpose of the event and how you came to know about this event? Can we have 10 to 15 seconds for each person? So can you start? So can you tell your name?
I'm Vaishali. I'm coming from Nolambur. Hello everyone, and I'm Vaishali. I'm coming from Nolambur. Currently, I'm working as a Flutter developer and more than a year and a half. So I came to this event by LinkedIn. I really hope that I will learn something.
Hi everyone, here I am a React developer. I came this event from LinkedIn.
Hello everyone, I am Kumar. I am C++ developer. I came here to
English compulsory there. Tamil, if you are guys comfortable Tamil, you can just give your Tamil also.
Hi everyone, I'm Aravindan. I'm working as a backend software developer for 3 years and I came to know about this event through LinkedIn.
I'm Prakash from Mutiampakam, completed bachelor's in computer application and I known about this event from LinkedIn.
Hi everyone, my name is Manikantana. I'm working as a cybersecurity engineer from 1 year. I came to know about this event through LinkedIn.
Myself, Ramesh Khanna, 3 plus years of cybersecurity development, and I seen him Ranganathan in online probably. We connect to
Hi all, I'm Rashmi. I'm a BSc Business Management Strategy and I came to know about it.
Hi, I'm Shandras. I'm a second year student at JP University. I can go to by.
Yeah, I'm Harish V from JP University. I'm a second year student and I'm a freelancer and a startup company. I'm going to start a company and I'm a full stack developer and through that I was already in the group so I came to know through that.
Hello everyone, I'm Rishabh and I'm a second year student at MCC. My professor recommended me this event, Mr. Ranganathan.
Hi everyone, I am Amir. I am also from same college as Rishabh, MCC. I was recommended by Ranganathan. He insisted me to.
நான் ஜாய்ஸ் பியூலா நாங்கள் கேசிஜி காலேஜ்லேருந்து வந்திருக்கோம் செகண்ட் இயர் படிக்கிறோம் சுரேந்தர் சார் ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்ணுறோம்.
Yes, good to hear. So let's welcome Ranganathan sir who came for this interview. Hi sir. It's your colleague? Okay. So welcome to Cypher Technologies. So like, he'll be taking us through he'll be deeply taking us through the cyber security. And like, before starting with the event, like, let's quickly, shall I take what Cypher means? So Cypher, we are like 40 to 50 techies who work hard like for different clients across the globe. We are experts in like fantasy applications. As you guys know, fantasy in the sense, sports-based applications like cricket, football, basketball, kabaddi. So we have done many applications which currently is in production. And our main achievement was like Dream Level. So as in the last event, I was covering about the Dream Level, like for the 1 hour, how we developed it, how we deployed it, what was the issues we faced, how we recovered from those issues, and how the project went successfully. So like, we are the tech teams, like our team like consists of DevOps, testing team, DevOps team, like marketing, digital marketing team, like HR team, front and back, and like Flutter developers, React Native developers, all developers, a set of people also we have. So like, the main specialty of us, like teamwork. We used to work as a team, like even the tester and developer, we used to be as friends, like even only at the work times we'll be like, what is this, like this is a bug, this is not a bug, like that. But after working hours, we'll be working as a friends, and which is the main core for the strength of a success, like. So, before like going into the session, like let me tell about the Rex. Rex Roy, he is like one of our backend developer, backend engineer. He's working like, he came from Mumbai actually. So he's currently residing in Chennai, he's working in our company. Like, he'll be taking you guys to the AI, how AI is connecting the world, AI and humans, how AI connects with the humans and it's enriching the world currently. So let me welcome like Rex Roy, who will be our first speaker. He will be getting us through the AI technologies. Hi Rex, let's carry on.
Okay, that was a great intro, Anish. Yeah. Are you able to hear me, everyone? Okay, great. Let's make this session a bit interactive, okay? Wait, I'll just connect my system. It's ready. So, my topic for today, firstly I'll introduce myself. I'm a backend developer and currently working in Cypher. Been like around 8 months, yes? Yeah. So, today's topic is mind meets AI, the rise of AI interface. So, what does come into your mind, like when you think about this like AI interface, can be connected to your mind? Like anyone can tell, or should I just pick someone?
Neuralink. What? Neuralink.
Neuralink. Neuralink is Elon Musk's project, right? Yeah, that's great. Anyone else? Right. So no clue basically. So basically what it means is in simple terms, it's when your mind gets connected to a system and the system will tell the mind, or it can control your mind basically. That is like the basic definition, yeah. So let's explore the world of AI, how AI meets mind. Yeah. So yeah, what is neural interface? Neural interface is basically, there are like different types of neural interfaces like DCI, BMI, NIS. DCI is brain-computer interface, which we will be discussing more in detail. Brain-computer interface. This basically creates a direct link between your brain and the external device. Like, let's say you want to connect, you don't have, like you are paralyzed or something, and you connect your system, connect your brain to some system, so that you can talk or just move your hands or something. That's where this comes into picture. So what are the things that it can do? Like I said, restore function, unlock communication, and advanced research. Unlock communication, there are a lot of people who are not able to talk, who are paralyzed, who don't have the ability to talk or speech, stuff like that, yeah. So that's when these things help the patient. So why, like most of you are from software, IT background, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And who all are students? Okay, great. So these guys are okay, great. and these guys are like mostly professionals. So what I would want you to tell, like, how would you, like, if given a chance, would you guys be willing to, you know, take this as a career, like anyone? You're a student? Working? Okay. So what are you doing currently? What are you doing currently?
I'm pursuing my second year.
Second year. So you have interest in these stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Just these guys talking. I'll pick someone. You, sir?
I'm a working professional.
Okay.
So I'm rightly working in an AI agent-based project in an MNC.
Wow, great. He might have more knowledge than me.
Not that much. I'm trying to start right now, so that's why I'm exploring all this.
So
AI
this
things.
is like your fresher.
Yes,
Great.
kind of.
So what have you studied?
No, I'm an MSc graduate. I have 10 years of experience in UI. So I'm moving into AI right now.
Okay.
And by the way, which AI seems, I guess there is going to be a very less interface for humans. The more you say, right? The few, I don't know how many I've seen. There are robots which is playing basketballs and boxing and also all the games. So everything is going to be automated in the upcoming years.
Okay, great. That was great. Your name?
Jalil.
Jalil. Thank you, Jalil. Please, properly. Everyone. Yeah. So anyone else? Or I'll just pick randomly. Oh yeah. You last guy, pink shirt. Okay. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, what are you doing firstly? Like,
working as a cybersecurity engineer.
Cybersecurity. So next PPT will be more interesting for you, right? Okay. So like, would you be interested? Would you be interested in, you know, like changing or shifting, or learning about this?
Can't shift, but I will test more on this AI agents. Now I started. So recently many AI chatbots, AI LLM. So I am doing red teaming on all these things. And many applications I have found very sensitive data. So the responsibility is for
Okay, that's great. That's great. So just sit and enjoy. Like, if you have any doubts, any questions, everyone can just interrupt me while I'm taking this session. But yeah, this will be mostly interactive, so I might ask anyone, you know. So yeah. So why as software engineers you need this? Like mostly AI is like taking over. If you are not using AI, then you might be replaced. It's someone who knows AI and who knows how to code. So yeah. Can you go down? So yeah, innovate interfaces with if you have like this AI interface, like neural interface, you can basically do is like enable mind-powered control devices. Let's say if I wanted to control my system, which now Karthik, our business analyst, is controlling, I wish I could do that by just, imagining the thing. But sadly we can't. But maybe in future we can do that. Advance your career. There are like different roles. Even I haven't heard of such roles like AI decoder. AI decoder is someone who decodes the language of AI. Like, there are like, if you might know, anyone Python developer, R, someone. So that's the code usually AI decoders decode. Like there's specific language which is given to AI so that BCI, brain-computer interface, UX design. UX design is basically the front end part for the front end guys. Yeah. And impact lives. Definitely, if this goes ahead, like in future, there's like a lot of scope. Currently, it's just in the beginning stage. Like someone mentioned Neuralink. So Elon Musk's company, which actually makes chips and implants in your motor cortex. Motor cortex is like a part of the brain, like it's part of the skull, which you have to operate. Like this is like surgically, you have to do that. We'll go forward and Okay, historical milestone. Just put it down. So when it all started, like when were we introduced to this neural interface or BCI that we call today? So initially there was a scientist in 1960s. His name is Jose Delgado. This this is a random AI image, it's not the perfect image, yeah. So, okay, so that was the person who actually thought of building a chip and putting it in a bull's brain. So while racing in a pitch, he just controlled its brain to stop and the bull stopped. That was the initial or the first phase where this was introduced. Like how a machine can control a brain. And the second, first cochlear implants, 1970s. Cochlear implants are those implants which are in your ears. If you're not able to hear, you were able to hear at that time when this got invented, during the 1970s. Yeah, you can change. So historical milestone 2, BCI, brain computing interface. So this is like a famous experiment. I think some of you might have heard, anyone heard of this monkey arm experiment? Wherein Nikolai and Chapin showed monkeys how a robotic arm can be controlled. So basically the monkey was amputated. So what they did is, they attached a mechanical robotic arm to it. And they tried to use their machine to control the hand. So that's the experiment of the 2000s. So what they did is, they used robotic limbs via neural signals, kickstarting neuroprosthetics. Human intracortical typing. So what happened is, during the 2010s, first human was allowed to type with just thinking. Basically, he was paralyzed. So when first human became paralyzed, thought transforming assistive communication. So what happened is, the human was given a machine in his brains so that he could basically think of words that would let him imagine, like, how would you communicate? Imagine if you guys were mute or you did not have the ability to speak. So you would find it difficult to tell or communicate. Like, it's easy for me to communicate now because I can speak, you guys can listen, you guys can speak. But it would be difficult for a person who doesn't have the ability. So what they did is, they implanted a machine in his body, through which it was connected to another system, which translated what he was thinking or what he wanted to say. Any questions? Anyone wants? Yeah. So yes, like I earlier told, go down. There are like two types of interfaces. One is non-invasive method and other is invasive method. So what happens in non-invasive? Non-invasive is basically when you don't have to surgically operate your body. Just like Neuralink, it would require you to have a surgical procedure. But for non-invasive, you don't need to do that. You must have heard of EEG. Like, EEG is a scans your brain for any tumors or any brain-related injuries, epilepsy. So you don't have to surgically do that. There's a system connected to your brains which would send signals, and then it would tell you if there's any problem, any issue, or anything related to your brain. That is the non-invasive EEG, electro and scalp sensors. Yeah. Invasive methods. What are invasive methods? Invasive methods are where you need to get yourself surgically implanted with the chips, like you see. The only advantage of this is that the frequency or the signals will be easily like detected. If it's outside your brain, like let's say a non-invasive machine, it would find it difficult, like the signals would be pretty low because it's outside your brain, like it's just an external system which is connected. But definitely if you are having an implant in your brain, it would be definitely more fast to how it catches signals. There are neural signals in your brains which obviously everyone has. It actually sends, your brain sends signals, neural signals, every time, like every second of minute, like every second, every millisecond basically, while you are there, yeah. So that's where this comes to picture and you can basically detect those neural signals. These are different types of signals like P300, SWIP, SWP, SMR. Like anyone heard of these signals? Any bio student? No one? Okay. Anyone? Okay. So yeah, what happens is P300 is basically a signal which comes out of your brain when you don't, when you are like shown something better, like when you are shown some flickering images or something, that it acts as it comes at every P300 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds. That's why the name got P300. And sweep. This is basically when you are imagining something. Like if I wanted to hold this mic, I would imagine like, I want to hold this mic. That's when the signal would help you. This is the signal that you send, that the brain sends basically. When you want to do any activity. SMR, sensory motors. Sensory motors would come under more of a physical activity. Like, you know, let's say you are cycling or you are like constantly doing something like typing. That's when this signal gets activated. Yeah. So these are the basic definition which I already mentioned. You can just read it. Sensory brain may act associated with motor immune, generative membrane. Okay, yeah. So you would think that how would you train a machine? There are like a lot of stuff. You can't just connect your brains to the machine. It doesn't have any idea. That's where AI and everything comes into picture. Like you can easily connect something to your brain's system. Like anyone here would want to tell, like if they would, like if they have any idea, like what goes behind, like what is the mechanism that they would do to do this, like what would the machine understand if you connect to the brain? Like if you have any idea. Basically, let's say your brain is connected to a machine. How would the machine react? Like how would you think, let the machine think? Like it should understand, like if you are, I want to type or if you want to do something, what is the thing?
It takes the signals which we are thinking and computes that or something.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'll move forward. So basically, there's, like he said, a system will definitely send signal, but the machine won't understand what to do with it, because if there is no data filled in the machine, it would be just a random raw data for the system basically. So what we as any data engineers or data analysts here, like any from data scientist background? No? Okay. Okay, you're learning right now. That's great. So you want to be a data analyst or data science. Okay, great. So what data can do is we feed data to the system on how a normal person would react. Let's say a normal person's brain reacts to something similar to a person who is on bed, or like an amputated or a paralyzed person. So we feed the data to the system so that it reacts the same way. That it could be, imagine like if let's say you don't have any, like you can't move your arms or anything. So we feed that system basically how a normal person would react. So that signals would directly help the system to understand, oh, this is what it means. This signal is what the guy is supposed to do. Yeah, you can go down. So it is not easy to train these systems. You need a lot of data. It's just a lot of like microseconds, like your neural signals. They send a lot of signals. So for that, you need to train the system. Basically, whenever if anyone has worked in AI, this guy, so you would know that to train a system, you need a lot of data. You need to feed it, LLMs and stuff like that, yeah? So even to train this system, you need a lot of human data and what it should predict. Like, it wouldn't be absolutely like perfectly correct, but we can come close to perfect. That's what the intent is. So making them learn, basically feeding the data to the system and then making it achieve what normal humans can be achieved. Closed loop feedback. So feedback, basically when a system makes error, let's say you wanted to move your arm, but you were not able to, you were doing something else. Like, it was not able to move your arm. So that's an error. That's a feedback which is fed to the system so that next time when you're thinking of moving something or typing, it would do the exact same thing rather than getting, rather than doing something else. Yeah. So this is a trial and error process until it does the activity which is needed. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, like Guna. Neural AI engineer, that's like earlier what I mentioned is what you can do as a IT professional. If you are interested in going to these fields, you can basically, these are just three tech related jobs or just, I don't think, okay, do you have everyone's number or something? You guys are registered, right?
Yeah.
So do one thing, like, can you send the link? They'll be able to open this. It's the tech-related jobs that anyone can get in based on their skills and requirements. So Neuro AI engineer, develop algorithms interpreting brain signals. BCI product manager. Product manager is like everywhere. You would need a product manager to basically manage, who knows the flow of how a machine would work and how a machine would connect to your brain. And PCI SDK developer, basically creating tools. SDKs are tools, like for Java you have Eclipse, for React you have VS Code. Tools like that, SDKs, are used basically even for this. There are like very large, like lot of tools out there, like related to neuro interfaces. You can like search it online, like BrainFlow, open PCI. You can just have a Google search to find more about it. This is like a short video. It's the system connected to. Okay, you can just connect the system to the speaker so that.
Which means you can now simply type any thought in your head and control any device by just thinking about moving your hand. The way it works is through electromyography, a method used to examine and record the electrical activity produced by skeletal muscles. And EMG detects the electric potential generated by muscle cells when they are activated, either electrically or neurologically. This operates as a neural interface because it captures how the brain communicates with the body to control movement. Those communications can be intercepted by an EMG wristband. Now, Zuckerberg discussed this in a podcast, explaining how they have been developing this for a few years now with the goal of reducing the need for communication, voice, and physical gestures. Ultimately, they aim to create a completely private, discrete interface, allowing users to seamlessly communicate with friends or AR, receiving real-time responses as they go about their day. It sounds really like a Black Mirror feature, but it's definitely not as intimidating as implanting a chip in your brain like Neuralink.
What basically he's saying is Facebook Meta has created a wristband like shown in the video. So even your wrist sends signals. That's what they are trying to capture and type. Like you saw, you could type, you could play, but other like all the tech companies are behind this. Like they want to grow, wherein they know the future is Neuralink, wherein it would not only help in healthcare but other industries too, like gaming, virtual things and all. Yeah, you can just change the slide. The great YouTuber you should follow, yeah. So impact applications, full screen. a bit lower. So neural interfaces, how they are changing lives. Basically, like I have been telling you this whole time, restoring mobility, restoring anyone who can't do basic activities can have neural interfaces implanted. Like the arm, you are looking at these pictures, the pictures. Interactive gaming, like you saw in an earlier video, he was able to control games, like even type, based, not even he needed anything basically. So that's interactive gaming. Sensory restoration, again comes under restoring mobility. Karthik, go down. Yeah, visual information of a blind person. Let's say if you're a blind person, it wouldn't person wouldn't know like what you're trying to, what he's being shown. So there might be a chance where neural interfaces can be used in this too. Okay, let's see a live demo of how it would work, like BCI emotion decoder. It's not actually you can scan this first. Yeah, you guys can scan this, and Karthik, even share the link in the group, like by showing for this. So what is this? Like you can see, these are like 4 signals. This is just a prototype. Don't consider this as an actual thing, but we are trying to do something closer to that, what could be seen in a man's brain or a person's brain. So if you try changing the levels and go down, let's say you go down and decode emotion, there will be a specific emotion that the AI won't detect or the machine will detect. So, do you guys, have you ever used Streamlit? So basically, an application to deploy your codes. Anyone? Never heard of? Okay, great. I'll just show you the Python code. Anyone Python developer? Anyone? You're a Python developer? Oh, great. So are you a working professional or are you studying? Studying, oh great. So you like Python? Okay.
Yes.
What interests you in Python?
Just because I started with Python. So I just got very invested in it and I mostly interested in AI.
Okay.
So Python is very good for the AI application. So that's it. Yes, I have built some projects. I am currently working on a vision-based AI project for a company. I'm also a freelancer. I just started freelancing.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, this is the basic code. So what I did is I'll just show you like the code. Like maybe you might be able to understand just the basic code wherein I have what I have used is like imported some basic packages like any. So so I have just created a basic page wherein for the CSS. CSS is basically anyone use HTML, CSS for front end. Basically, it's just a simple page wherein I use CSS sliding labels. So these would come under here, sliders. This whole page, this whole thing. Yeah. So brainwave sliders. Basically, this section is where I've embedded the sliders, alpha, beta, gamma, and I've kept it around 1 to 2, around 0 to 2. Yeah. Okay, just. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, again I connect. I'll tell, obviously I did not write it myself, I used AI. and I wrote and I just deployed it in a online platform, which is Streamlit. You can also do like some basic, just not even basic, it's just one page code. Just to see how, just to show you a demo, I want to show you a demo, but it would take much time, like if I do this, like if I did it. Firstly, I did that in my system and I deployed it in the cloud. So if you just try to change the sliders, it will show you an emotion. So it is not very hard, anyone can do it, you guys can try it. Just a basic Python code, obviously she will be able to do it. Like, more than that. I have just hosted that for this session. I might close it. Like it's available for everyone to see.
I'm just like curious, like how are you able to like figure out these numbers and
These numbers are actually
are these like
it mimics the brain signal basically. Mimics the brain signal. 0 to 2, right? 0 to 2 is the signal which I've set. 0 to 2 is the signal range that I've set, which your brain usually sends. These are just 4 signals that I've just added randomly. So if I wanted to add more signals, it would become more complex, and what emotion it would predict is, like, it would become very difficult and complex for me to do it. Like just in a short time, I just created it based on just 4 signals, 4 brain signals. So depending on the mood, like every signal can have multiple emotions or multiple things that you are thinking in your mind. So it's just 4 emotions that I randomly did based on human brain. Yeah. Anyone else has any doubts like this? Can surely bring that up until the system is loading. You have to say something. Anything. You can talk in Tamil, just be free. Yeah. Just say something.
Basically, the concept is the first time I'm there. So it was really insightful and see all the concepts for the exploring
Okay. So what do? You are a student? Fresher, okay, fresher. So what is your field? Like what are you working on? Oh, SD development. Which language? Okay, even this is a startup. We work in Node, Python, everything. Yeah, professional. yeah. Oh, it started.
So I'm a cybersecurity researcher and I do freelancing works.
Okay.
Right now I'm fresher in thesis.
Oh, great. So what made you why did you come here? Like, from where did you get the?
Yeah, so basically there was one group where they said this event would be about ethical hacking and SD and all.
Okay.
So since I'm going to TCS, I was told that I will be into development field also, and I have to give them security also. Like I have to develop and create a security for them. So that's why I know more.
So in TCS, you are doing everything, or that's like part of work that you're doing. Mostly in MNCs, what we see is like you are given specific tasks which you have to do. But in startup, like your friend here works, you have to do everything like this guy said.
That is true. So here, they definitely have team splits and all. But as per the knowledge I was given, they said that you please do develop some projects and give security for them also.
Great. So yeah. Your name? Mohan. Thank you, Mohan. That was quite insightful, and hope you are doing well. Let's change the slide. Yeah. Let's go back to the slide. Yeah. Go down. So yeah, just math. So like Ranga asked, like how I did this. Go down, normalize brain signals. basically 0 to 2 to avoid voltage complexity. Small range, I've kept small range because it would become more complex if you're adding like 0 to 10 or 0 to 1000. So just small iteration so that we could detect the emotion based on what the person is thinking. Emotion logic calibrated. Go down, Karthik. So AI thresholds are in the code I have set in such a way that if it gives this, it should give this emotion. Like I've hard coded it. That is not what actually would happen. Like there is like lot of line of codes if you want to detect an human emotion. So yeah. So tweakable for exploration. You can obviously do your own thing like 0 to 5 or maybe 0 to 10. If you're willing to do that, yeah, go ahead and try it yourself. Like this experiment or small demo. The real PCI system. This range would typically represent normalized EEG power values across different frequency bands, not raw voltage. So EEG, like I earlier told, EEG is basically a brain, when you have to scan your brains for tumors or epilepsy, or if there's any brain damage, you do EEG, yes, like if you have heard. Obviously, most of you might have heard. EEG is a scan that we do if there's any damage in your brain. So that concept only I just brought it here. So yeah, what is the future vision? How would future look like? Currently, BCI or neural interface is like very slow in today's age. Like if you want to talk with BCI, let's say I'm not able to talk. So it would take a lot of time, not a lot of time, but it would take more than like few minutes to decode what you're able to think based on your neural interface. You know the famous scientist Stephen Hawking? He did not use BCI because what happened during his time, like he's no more, great scientist. He was paralyzed and he was not able to talk. There was a system connected to him. So what they did is they captured the muscle movements. That was when they were able to predict that this is what he was trying to talk whenever he wanted to communicate. So BCI was like very fresh. Very fresh at that time, and it is evolving currently. And maybe in future you'd be able to do it in quick speed. Brain cloud fusion. What is brain cloud fusion? So like you all know, there's like cloud storage. So basically, if I want something to have some data which can't be stored in the system and which you want to show it to everyone, like let's say if anyone wants to access that, you need to set up a system wherein they can connect to it. So if I'm connecting my brains to a cloud, it should be very fast. The internet should be very fast so that it predicts what I'm able to see. With 5G and 6G on the verge, it might be a possibility. So you know how fast is 5G. Even 6G, I think around 2030s, they'll start rolling out 6Gs for broadbands. So at that time, cloud will be in their peak time. Yeah. Anyone have any insightful knowledge or anything about that? Want to share?
There's a Shark Tank product about this about that. Using this, they were using musical instruments, and there's a movie about it, actually, Bloodshot by Vin Diesel. They were using all these brain fusion clouds and all those things, or like they are substituting the human accessibilities with the machines. Yeah, that's a very good movie representation of this thing. Yeah.
There's another movie, if you are interested in this, like you can watch Upgrade, yeah. It's a good movie. It's basically a AI related chip controlling everything. Yeah. Anyone else, or should I? Yeah. Great in
So recently, I think in China or Japan, I forgot, they are able to download the entire Netflix in 1 second.
Yeah, 1 second.
That's 1 TB of
entire
data.
Netflix, yes.
So the speed of the net is 1 TB.
Yeah, imagine how fast we could easily download anything. So this would be just milliseconds away if you are trying to transfer that. But that is like when in India, I think it's far from there. I think the basic speed is like I think 30 Mbps, like average speed, something. Yeah. So in China, yeah, I also heard about that experiments. Like very cool. Anyone else from this side? Yes. Any insights or any thoughts you can share with these guys?
Good question.
Yeah. Which neurals? Okay, you have to go back. I think one second. So this video or the slide? Okay.
I have a portion of beta and gamma.
Yeah.
A denoted for creation. If a set all two
Yeah.
2 points, then I slide to the alpha only to the 0.
Can you show it like what your? Let's see. Okay, and go to decode. Yeah.
I then change only alpha.
Okay.
Then why change the other colors also detected?
Because yeah, like I said, this graph is just a mimicry. But usually what happens is when your brain is trying to have different emotion, all the other nerves also has an effect on it. It's not just like one nerve and would change. Like if one nerve is changing, every other would change as you are. Yes, that is how normal brain would work. Like if your emotion is to like any emotion, let's say happy, other emotions, yes, correct. If you are happy, basically other emotions will also be impacted. It might be excitement, surprise. Same comes all under happy. Okay. Any other doubts or any other insightful?
So you said you use AI. So what specifically do you use?
Basically just for writing the whole code and detecting how a normal brain would work in an EEG system. Like EEG, if you have anyone has taken EEG test, you would know that there is a specific range that they give signals to. That is how I basically did it.
So basically you use AI to write code
Yeah,
and
and
also
mimic a human being.
Mimic
Based
a
on what it would actually do.
So those are just hard coded programs.
Yes.
So that is synthesized data.
Yes.
Or did you use a data set or
Real world data set. Based on that, I
augmented?
yes, that too I got from online.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions, your friend? Anyone else? Yeah, let's move on to the slide, Kalpa. No, please, there are no stupid questions.
And do you think the results vary based on the data set? Like, if you take from probably Hugging Face or like maybe any other probably some expensive data set, do you think that your
It would be exactly correct. That's what you're saying. Like,
yeah, will there be any variation in the?
there might be definitely variation because every human is different. So it might not be that you're same. If I put your same data set to some other or my brains, I would react differently. So it is not exactly the same. Like it could differ.
Data set depends on the individual human brain.
Yes, but not a lot of difference. Minor difference. Yeah. So yeah, brain cloud fusion, like I said, brain cloud fusion, and memory backups. Imagine if your memory, if a dead person's memory or all the data is stored somewhere that you could access or anyone can access, how amazing would it be? Let's say if I put all that data into a robot and it would exactly mimic the person who is dead. That's the future what we are looking for. Like all the emotions, all the things that a basic human being has. But when obviously we are all humans, we are going to die one day. So when all the emotions and everything, like we basically putting a brain to a robot, it would exactly mimic the person who is dead. That is like very far right now, but yeah, that is what a memory backup, like archive and restore personal memory. Could obviously have the person's memories on what he did, what was there, or even if you're not dead, you could have this basic memories which could be shown into you as a picture or something. If you have seen, anyone knows this series Black Mirror? Anyone? It's a great show. So if you go, like there are like lot of things like this which is shown. It's sci-fi based TV series. Thought-driven design. Control interfaces by intention. So if you want to control something, you should have an intent. Yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. Right? When you are doing something, there is definitely an intent. Like this is supposed to do this. That is what thought-driven design. The design would basically tell the system what it is supposed to do. So yeah, we are like not very far. Maybe in coming years, this all might be possible in future. Like yeah, emotions decoded from brainwave. Like I earlier showed you how we can detect a basic human emotion, be it happy, sad, angry, excited, surprising. Interfaces controlled by thought. There is also a chance wherein the system would be able to control you. It is a possibility that the system, if it goes rogue, like if you, I don't know if you have seen any films like this, but quite a possibility if it is not secured or anything. So the system would be able to control you as well.
I think it already happened, but I'm not sure how much it is true.
You can tell
They tried to close the server of an OpenAI's 4.0 model.
Yeah, because it's for trying to communicate to another system.
It took all the backup of it by itself while it is trying to close. But I don't know how far is it just a gimmick or they are trying to publicize their company. But it already happened. Okay. So whatever is we thinking is going to happen is already happening.
Yeah, definitely. See, I did not know that. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great insight. So yeah, so these are the things which are quite possible in future. So let's just hope that you are able to adapt to things like this. If you guys are not using AI, it would definitely harm your skills. So I recommend everyone to use some bit of AI in your work. Not necessarily you should be a technical person, could be someone who's non-tech. Do some basic tasks like writing an email or anything which would just enhance your work. It's not that you should do everything from AI, just basic things that would help you. So let's have a small quiz. Let's see